Live from Nairobi, this is Focus on Africa on BBC News. Our top stories.
I am Celestine Karoney in Atlanta, Georgia, with details of the World Cup, which has had many challenges in the build-up, including a lot of traveling issues for fans and officials.
The bonds or the payments which had to be made on some countries in Africa have been waived, so they don't have to be made for those who are coming.
And it's a deja vu. Fans in South Africa drum up support as their country faces Mexico in a World Cup opener, a redo of the 2010 World Cup opening match. Let's now bring in BBC Sport Africa's Celestine Karoney, who is in Atlanta in the United States, one of the host cities of the World Cup. Celeste, thanks so much for joining us. And you've had Gianni Infantino there put to task by journalists about access challenges or limitations around this World Cup. What's the experience been like for you as you made your way there and the fans you've spoken to?
Well, Wahiga, I think the one thing that has really been maybe very stark about this World Cup is football is always known to be this game that unites the world. But what has been obvious in this World Cup is that the strength of your passport determines the level of access you would have in this World Cup. And so I personally did not have any problems. I'm one of the few journalists from the continent who were able to get our visas and travel without issues. We know journalists from the continent have struggled to get visas for the competition, even some of them who already had accreditation. We have spoken to fans, Wahiga, who have said some of them did not even bother going to the embassy or trying to apply for visas because they said their countries were already on a partial suspension list, like Senegal and Ivory Coast, and so I think when you look at the 10 African countries that had qualified for the World Cup, 7 of them have very stringent rules for them to apply for visas to the United States. And why does everybody want to come to the United States for this World Cup despite having 3 hosts? Well, the US is hosting the bulk of the games, and so I think it has really been mixed for many fans and many officials and many journalists, depending on the country you're coming from, Wahiga.
Celeste, I think that's a good idea of what's been happening off the pitch, but now attention turns to the pitch. 10 African teams. How big a moment is this for the African continent? Could it guarantee further progression for an African team?
Oh, Wahiga, the more the merrier, yes? Look, we're all excited about 10 African teams because in 2022 we only had 5 teams. And what 10 African teams has meant is that we've had a debutant and we've had teams returning. We have a debutant, Cape Verde, one of the small nations competing at this World Cup. We have DR Congo returning for the first time since 1974. This would not have been possible if we didn't have 10 teams, especially for DR Congo, because they went through the long way. They were the last team to qualify through the playoffs. Well, does this mean that maybe it's time Africa wins the World Cup? Well, look, this has been said for so long, Wahiga, but I think personally that the fact that it is a bigger tournament with 48 teams makes it even more difficult. Why do I say that? Because you're looking at 2 levels of knockouts before you get to the quarterfinals. So in the round of 32, you'll have teams, meeting some of the big names in football globally very early on in the tournament. And so I guess that might be where the challenge is. But Wahiga, like they say, if you want to win, you have to play the best. So we'll see where African teams end up.
Okay.
At least the good thing with many teams, Wahiga, is that there will be the top 2 qualifying, and then there'll be the best 8 third-place teams.
Very briefly, if you can, Celeste, you're in a country that seems to prefer more of American football, and they call what the rest of the world calls football soccer. Is the World Cup buzz being felt where you are in Atlanta?
When we got here, Wahiga, it really wasn't 2 days ago. It was a bit flat, but today I am seeing football life. I'm seeing the sense of a football fan festival. We are outside the FIFA Fan Festival. Behind me, I'm not sure if you can see, there's been some fans passing through with Mexican t-shirts. I've seen Mexican flags on cars. So it is bubbling, Wahiga. That sense of football atmosphere is finally being felt in this city.
We can definitely feel it through your voice, Celeste. Sounds exciting. I wish I was where you are. But we're going to have to leave it at that. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon in the coming days.